Hello everyone, thank you once again. My name is Kane Mani. I'm the biggest tech entrepreneur on the African continent. In this video, I want to share with you my personal vision of what I want the world to be, where I want to drive the world, where I want to drive the African continent, and the impact and the advancement I want to make in the world. This vision guides in all the companies I'm creating. Now, the companies I'm creating are as a result of this vision. In my last video, I spoke to you about how the vision is the reason why we create a company, to bring these things into the world. In my existence, throughout my years of wanting to be on earth and the impact I want to make, there are 5 areas that I have decided to tackle to bring the maximum impact and change the world. Now, my vision is divided into 2. First of all, I want to contribute to the development of the African continent significantly, meaning that I want to see the growth of this continent. I want to see the development of this continent. I want to see the impact on this continent. I want to build this continent. Now, in doing that, I also want to advance the cause of humanity. So there is a balance between building products, building solutions, creating things that fix this continent, and creating things that advance the cause of humanity. So this is the balance of my vision, and this is how I am executing it. Now, my vision is divided into 5 key areas. So the first one is Techification. Technification. The second one is electrification. The third is industrialization. Yes, industrialization. And the fourth is emancipation. And the fifth is documentation. So I want to take you through what all these things mean. So what technification means, what electrification means, what industrialization means, what emancipation means, and what the documentation means with regards to my personal vision. And all the companies that I'm creating, all the companies I'm building technologies, and all the things I'm inventing are all fueled or driven by the goal to achieve these 5 things in the long run. So whatever space we are in, it has to align to technification, electrification, industrialization, emancipation, or documentation. So these are the 5 areas that everything gears towards. So let's start with technification. So technification basically means that making everything tech. Advancing the continent or advancing humanity to a point where 99% of everything we do is fueled by technology. So from the house we live in, to the cars we drive, to the food we eat, to the clothes we wear, to what we do, the time we spend, and everything should be fueled by tech. So we can free humanity of not doing the hard things any longer. Example is, I don't think it makes sense to spend a lot of, maybe, if you have the resources to even spend a month or 2 months building a house, we should be able to make or build a house in a day, in an hour, or even less. People should be able to order a house online and have it delivered to them. We should be able to have reusable lands where buildings that are not in use at that point in time can be used for something else. But ever since the existence of humanity, we've always done these things the hard way. So in advancing the cause of humanity with technification is to make sure that everything we are doing, 99% is fueled by tech, is techified. Bringing that to our continent, because as I said earlier, the vision is split into 2. So, because we are on the verge of building the African continent, and we're also advancing the cause of humanity. So it's a two-way street. Whilst we are advancing humanity, we are building the continent. Now, in building the continent, with regards to Technification, what we need to achieve, or what we need to do, or my vision or the goal, is to make everyone on the continent tech savvy. So we need to be able to make 99% of the people of the African continent, the 1.3 billion people on the African continent, tech savvy, which means that the tech adoption rate, or everything they do, they personally need to know and have that conviction of using technology and nothing else. Now, that is Techification, and how that causes advancement in humanity and also helps us build the continent. The second part of the vision is electrification. So, electrification in the sense that, and there's a lot of work being done in the electrification space, but there's a lot that hasn't been done yet, because energy consumption, energy capacity, making sure the world has like affordable, available like energy sources that is unlimited is a very big deal, and is very important for the existence or the growth of humanity. More importantly, on the African continent, there are a lot of people that are suffering from lack of consistent, reliable, affordable electricity, which is a huge deal. So our goal of electrification stems from the fact that we need to be able to make sure that humanity and Africa as a whole exists with having enormous power. Now, we started off by making sure that everybody in Africa has like reliable, affordable electricity, which is available to them all the time. Now, beyond that, it transcends towards a lot of things in the case of electrification, right? So as we techify the world, we electrify the world. Then we industrialize the continent. One of the key things about African continent is most of the things we consume are things that we import. Now, my vision for industrialization is that for Africa to be a self-sufficient continent, it needs to produce everything it consumes. To achieve that, we need to create or build things that enable mass production of everything we already consume across scale. And it's one of the most important parts of building the African continent. And until we do that, we can industrialize the continent. Then we come to emancipation. So emancipation deals with how most people in Africa think or are wired. And I think it's based on education, upbringing, and all of that. So the goal is to rewire us or rebuild things or build things that create or like share different things rather than things we've already done. So we have a new kind of school, a new kind of university, new modules of teaching and educating the next generation of Africans to think different from the past generation or the other generation. Then we talk about documentation. So documentation basically in regards to film, books. How do we let the stories of the great Africans made an impact and be told for generations to come? How do we make movies about them? How do we make movies about the great people like Jas Antua, Azuma Nelson, Jerry John Rawlings? How do we carry that legacy forward? How do we let the reading culture, or how do you document, how do you write books, document these stories? All these are geared towards making sure that the African continent is well developed and humanity is much more advanced. Now that I've listed these 5 areas that my vision is focused: Techification, electrification, emancipation, industrialization, and documentation. let me take you into detail of how all of these things operate and the breakdown of all of these things. Then in my next video, I'll talk about what my companies are doing and how some of the things my companies are doing are aligned with the vision, and the long term, how we tend to achieve all this vision and bring all the things into reality, making sure the continent as a whole is built and humanity is advanced. So, starting with Techification, the goal is to make Africa a technology-first continent. So, my vision is to accelerate the transition of Africa to a technology-first continent. What that means is that, as I said earlier, everyone on the continent should be tech-savvy. Now, for us to achieve this, we need to break it down to 4 key areas which we have to tackle and make tremendous progress in those areas to enable the push to achieve Techification on the African continent, which is accelerate the transition of Africa to a technology-first continent. Now, there are 4 key areas to achieve this. The first being people, second being infrastructure, third being products, the fourth being skills. Now let's talk about people. Africa has about 13, a little over less than 20 or more than 20% tech savviness or internet penetration or tech adoption across the entire continent. So Africa has most people who are not adopting tech for their everyday usage or purposes as much. Now, for us to make Africa a tech-first continent, we need to accelerate the adoption of tech amongst the masses, which means that we need to get a critical mass of people that are convinced in their minds that they will always choose technology over the traditional way to do things. Example is when you go to buy porridge, the porridge seller should be able to say, okay, I will accept this means of payment, or I have a small app for my purchases, for my order, rather than say, okay, well, let me take the pens, let me do this and stuff. That critical mass, that adoption has to be there. We should be able to walk to supermarkets and not see human beings there. We should be able to walk to supermarkets and pick up things there without any cashier or any like anything of that sort. We should be able to go to restaurants and not see a waiter. You see, we should be able to make sure that the people who drive these things or who are the enablers of these things understand tech so much that they've adopted it. That is the first thing we need to achieve to enable a critical mass to adopt tech. That will lead to the techification of the African continent and make and accelerate us to become a tech-first continent. And now, for us to do this, we need to organize tech events, tech programs, build centers, evangelize it, make sure that every piece of the cake, everybody is getting what they need to get to enable this to happen. So if we are able to drive home and get a critical mass adopting the tech, we solve a quarter of the problem of accelerating the African continent to be a tech-first continent. Now, let's assume we've been able to drive home a critical mass of people to be able to adopt and accept tech. When they do, the questions they ask, so I've accepted technology, I love technology, I want to use tech. Where are my tools? That brings me to the second point, which is infrastructure. For us to drive home or for us to accelerate Africa to a tech-first continent, we need to make available the infrastructure after these people have been convinced or they've accepted or they've adopted tech, infrastructure they would need to facilitate or enable their tech usage easy. And there are three models, or there are three things needed in the infrastructure pipeline for these things to happen. The first being, we need to have quality, high-end, yet affordable smartphones for everyone on the African continent. I mean everyone. We need to make a conscious effort to erase the non-smartphones and have everyone use a smartphone. Second being computers. We need to have quality yet affordable computers in every home in every hands in Africa, which means that in every home there has to be quality affordable computers, and everyone should have quality affordable computers. Through this, they're now able to access the tools they need because they have the smartphone, they have the computers, they understand the tech. The third one being internet. We need to make sure that Africa has reliable, stable internet across the continent where everyone can easily access anywhere. So people don't necessarily need to have like Wi-Fi in their homes, or people don't really need to have like maybe use data from their telcos. But wherever they are, whether outside, school, home, restaurant, there should be reliable, affordable internet everywhere on the continent. Everywhere should be Wi-Fi, where anybody can access it affordably, so that now they've adopted the tech. Two, they have the infrastructure, which is they have high quality, affordable smartphones, they have high quality, affordable computers. Now there is internet access everywhere for everybody to access. The third piece of the cake is building products. So this is where entrepreneurs come into play. Building a variety of services, building a variety of tools, building a variety of products for the consumers, because now they've been sold on the value of tech. A critical mass have moved to understand and adopt tech. They have the tools to use the tech. They have smartphones, computers, there's Wi-Fi everywhere. Now they want the products. So this is where people like myself and a couple of others build products which meet their needs. Now the fourth and final part of the cake to enable this acceleration is skills. Now we need a critical mass of people who understand how to code, who understand how to program, who understand the value of building great stuff. So if the entrepreneurs are building high growth, high speed products that are meeting high consumption, and they don't have the skills, they become like there is a deficit. So we need to create system structures that foster or encourage a lot of programmers, a lot of people to build things. So from JHS to SHS, we have the best programming schools in the world on the African continent to enable people to create things that meet the demand of the 1.3 billion people on the African continent. So these are the four things that are needed to enable us make Africa a technology first continent. So we need to make the people tech savvy. We need to provide infrastructure that the people will need. We need to create the products that the people consume. We need to have the skills to keep building these products at a larger scale. Now, when we put all these things together, we can have a critical mass and a huge shift of change in the African continent, where we accelerate that transition and make almost everyone on the continent tech savvy. So this is Techification regarding the vision of making Africa a tech savvy continent. So now let me tell you about the next part of vision, which is electrification. With electrification, our mission is to make electricity available and accessible to everyone in the world. Now, for us to achieve this, we come back to our TTA vision, which is build Africa, advance humanity. So, for Africa, one of our biggest challenges, our biggest problem is lack of energy. Africa is the second sunniest continent after Australia, yet we are the least electrified continent in the world. Almost half of Africa's population don't have access to electricity, and the other half may be struggling with stable electricity and all of that. Now, what we want to do with electrifying the continent means that we are building technologies and tools to make sure that nobody lacks electricity. Electricity becomes accessible and available to everyone at a price point everybody can afford at scale. Now, when we're able to achieve this and bring electricity to every home on the African continent, meaning that we're able to make sure that everybody or every household or every livelihood on the African continent is able to access electricity, which is the first step of electrification, we now trickle it down to making sure that our mobility and other things around us that we can electrify. So from boats to cars to planes to all the things that will enable us become a carbon zero continent and enable us use all the electricity we have generated or we have created will be made available. So from devices to phones, from devices to computers to cars to homes to everything will be electrified. So electrification is so important on a continent that without stable power, we can't do anything. And this has been a challenge for Africa for a long time. And that is why we think, or my vision is to bring electrification onto this continent by making sure that every home has access to stable, powerful, reliable, yet affordable electricity. All devices, all gadgets from cars to phones to everything is electrified. Then we create new technologies for factories to produce things not with old age fossil fuel or with coal, but they manufacture and produce things now with electricity. What that means is that everything on the African continent would be electrified, which accelerates us to become like a carbon zero continent, which accelerates us to have stable power, stable electricity, electrified, as well as a clean continent, a clean environment to enable all these people we have techified to have access to everything else. The third on the vision is industrialization, which is making Africa a self-sufficient continent. Most of the things we consume on the African continent is produced outside and is imported here, which is a big deal. Now, for us to make Africa a self-sufficient continent, we need to produce everything we make here. This is not an easy task. Now, for us to make everything we produce here, it means we need to foster trade amongst ourselves. We need to foster production amongst ourselves. We need to create the resources that are needed to do this production at a scale that makes sense commercially, as well as enable distribution easily, and also make a self-sufficient continent. To do this, my vision is to build a collection of factories that produce these things effectively, less expensively, using the electricity we have created under an environment we call the machine city, which is the machine creating the machine and delivering it to people inexpensively to sell easily through Techification. So all of these things pieced together to enable us move the continent and advance humanity. Because everything we are built on the continent won't just stay on the continent. Now, there are pieces of the product that we will shoot up to the world when we start. There are others too we would build on the African continent and later expand to the world to let the benefit of that reach other parts of humanity. The next on the vision is emancipation, which is liberating the minds of Africans and making us understand and know that we can create things, build things, and be whoever we want to be, giving us a different educational curriculum, giving us a different foundation base, giving us different things that like empower us and don't break us. Is very critical. Then documentation, which is the last piece of the vision, is making sure that our stories are told. So the story of Kane Mani has never been told regarding to film-wise. The story of Yasantua, if you remember, all these great legends who passed through the African continent, generations will come and they will not remember their story because they've not been documented. So my vision is to bring those stories into reality, making sure that we create structures, we create environments through technology to enable people to create these stories or document these stories, film, books, plays, all over, and give them the infrastructure they need to be able to make this a mass market product for the African continent. So to achieve all these visions, I had to create companies. Now, these are things I want to achieve in my lifetime. These are things I want to achieve whilst I'm here on earth. And all will not happen in a day. And all are not happening now. All will happen at different stages of my life. And they are all going through different phases or different paths, but they all reach the same destination. So things like Technification, I started an event called A Day in Tech about 10 years ago. That the whole goal was to educate people, like bring awareness, bring consciousness, and bring adoption, imbibe that important to let people adopt tech. Then there's Origin, that is purely an energy technology company building technologies to make sure that everybody has access to electricity. Then other things in the Technification pipeline, like games, like workplace communication. There are things in industrialization that are being worked on. There are things that we are pushing. There is TDC, that is doing the advancement of tech by creating tech media so that people understand and accept the tech. So it's important for us, it's important for me, it's important for everybody watching, it's important that we're able to achieve this vision and accelerate the content, build the content, and advance humanity. In my next video, I'll tell about the 5 companies I run. So I run Origin, which is a tech company. I run Good Studios, a tech company as well. I also run Dodo, a tech company. I run Students, which is a tech company. I run TDC, which is a tech company. All exist to advance humanity and push Africa forward. So I'll tell about what these companies are doing and how they all fit into the vision I've listed and laid down, and how we can build these things together and build a continent, transform the world, and make a dent in the universe. My name is Kane Mani. I'm Africa's biggest tech entrepreneur. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.